Hi there, welcome back to my channel. I'm Cassie Villela and I'm a realtor, property manager, and investor here in the San Antonio, Texas market. Today, what I want to talk about is how you know when you are ready to buy a home. So if you're renting right now and you're wanting to jump in and buy a home, which there are lots of great reasons you should do that, of course. But a lot of people are not quite sure if it's your first time, when you're ready, how much money you need to have on hand, what you're going to need to qualify for the mortgage, etc. So I thought we'd go over that real quick today. The first thing you're going to need if you are wanting to go buy a home is a down payment. Now, if you are a veteran, you can get a VA loan, which can require no down payment. But in that case, you're still going to need to put up the earnest money and perhaps some closing costs. So you are going to need to have at least a little bit of cash on hand to just make the deal, start and continue, right? So even with the VA loan, you are going to need to have some cash on hand. If you are not a veteran, then you may need to have anywhere from 3.5% to 20% in order to qualify for a mortgage. So the FHA programs that are out there will often let you put 3.5% down, while conventional loan programs will want you to put anywhere from 5 to 20 or 25% down, depending on the circumstances and the type of loan and everything. Now, I should have given them a disclaimer from the beginning. I am not a loan officer. I am not a mortgage broker. I am just speaking from experience of guiding people through the process. And, this is going to just scratch the surface of what you really need to start down this journey. But I thought I'd just give a kind of brief intro to it. So you need that down payment. So 3.5%. So if you're looking at a $200,000 home, then you're going to need to have $7,000 for the down payment. Okay, so first of all, you need the down payment. Now, second, you're going to need some money for the closing costs. So you can ask the seller to cover some of the closing costs, but it's likely that you will have other closing costs that you're going to need to cover, or actually in this market, with as competitive as things are, it's pretty difficult to get something under contract when you're asking the seller to cover a lot of closing costs. So, you're really going to want to go in and be able to cover some of those in order to be a competitive buyer in 2021 here. So, you'll need to have the money for the down payment and then possibly for some closing costs. Closing costs are usually 1 to 2% of the purchase price of the home, but that varies really greatly depending on what costs are associated with your particular loan. So that's definitely something you are going to want to ask your lender to tell you upfront, about how much you should have set aside for your closing costs. You're also going to need to have a little bit of money set aside to pay for things like the inspection and the appraisal. So an inspection is usually around $300 to $400, depending on the inspector, and depending on the size of the home. And you definitely want to get that. I would never, ever counsel you to not get an inspection, of course. So, you're going to want to have that. And you're going to want to have the earnest money right up front, which is usually 1% of the total contract. So, that's a nice chunk of change. You're going to want to have about, if you kind of add all of that up, it's about 6% of the price of the home you want to purchase as a bare minimum of what you're going to need to move forward with the purchase. So you're going to need some cash on hand. That's the first thing you're going to need. Then second of all, you're going to need to be able to qualify for the loan. So the big things, now, again, I'm not a lender, and there are a laundry list of different qualifications and things you need to do in order to qualify. But I'm just going to talk about the big ones. The things that I see holding people up is credit score. Credit score is probably the biggest. There are just limits, right? There's limitations with that. So you definitely need to work on your credit, get your credit score up. And then the other thing is your work history and your employment. So if you have a W-2 job, that's really the best. Lenders do not like self-employed people like myself. They just make you jump through a lot more hoops if you're self-employed. But it can be done. Don't get me wrong. It definitely can be done. But if you have a W-2 job, that's the easiest way to qualify. And then you're going to have to show, that you earn enough for the level of home that you're trying to buy. And you're also going to have to show that you've been at that job for a while. So, usually they want to see a year or two of job history with the same company. Sometimes you can get around that if it's in the same industry. Like if you've recently moved, you were a programmer at one company and you moved to another company and you're still a programmer, usually that can work, but they want to see a stable job history. So, just because you've got the chunk of change that you need, you may not have the credit or the job requirements that will get you that mortgage. So just kind of, if you're thinking about it, if you're just kind of starting to look and think about getting a house, moving up out of a rental, then just kind of know those are your big things. Make sure you're saving as much money as possible, because even once you get the home, you need a savings on top of that for when things go wrong. Things are definitely going to go wrong. So, you don't want to put every last penny you have into the home up front, and then after you move in, the AC goes out or something. So, get a nice, healthy savings going. Make sure that you're constantly working on your credit, and make sure that your job history is staying stable. If you are self-employed, a lot of self-employed people try to limit their tax burden. And so they claim a lot of deductions on their taxes and make their income look as low as possible. But the downside of that is if you try to get a mortgage and your income looks as low as possible, then it's going to look like you have no income and you're not going to be able to qualify for as much mortgage as you would. So definitely, keep that in mind when you're filing your taxes. If you are thinking about buying a home in the next couple of years, you want to keep that factor in mind. And then if it sounds like you're on track and ready to buy a home, make sure you reach out to a lender so that you can get more specific counseling for your circumstances. Because again, everybody's different. And if you find a good lender, a good mortgage broker who can walk you through the process and educate you along the way, then this will be a lot easier, and you'll be able to it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hoops to jump through to buy your first home. So make sure you pick a really good lender, a really good mortgage broker to help you and hold your hand along the way. I work with wonderful mortgage brokers. So if you need a recommendation, please feel free to email me or text me or call me. And I'd be happy to point you to somebody who can help you out. So I hope that was helpful. If you like this kind of content, if you like, I do market updates, home maintenance, different aspects of buying and selling. If you like that kind of thing, then please click subscribe and leave me a like, and I'll see you next time.